Thank you, Secretary Kennedy. We're now going to take questions from the press. If you can please keep your questions to the reason we're here today and also give your first name, last name, and outlet. We have a microphone for you.
David Lim with Politico. Thanks for taking my question. In 2018, former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb said FDA scientists conducted an analysis suggesting that kratom compounds had opioid-like properties. And he said that there is, quote, no evidence to indicate kratom is safe or effective for any medical use. I know the FDA's warning letters and the actions today are concentrated on concentrated 7-OH products, but does the government today believe kratom itself is safe to consume? And then secondly, the DEA previously attempted to temporarily schedule 7-OH in 2016 before backing off after receiving public blowback. Is the Trump administration prepared to finalize the scheduling process, even if it receives similar concern now?
So first of all, we're not prepared to say anything is 100% safe, especially when it has psychoactive properties. But what we are saying is that our focus is on synthetic concentrated kratom. And you point out a good point, and that is that if we talk about all 7-OH, then we're not distinguishing to the public the risk stratification of the synthetic concentrated from the trace amounts of 7-OH that naturally appear in the kratom leaf and have for centuries and have been used in teas and other things. So our scheduling recommendation will delineate trace amounts from synthetic concentrated amounts. Great question. Thank you.
Hi, Lizzie Lawrence, reporter with STAT. I'm curious how many, if there are any known cases there are of 7-OH being recorded as the sole cause of a fatal overdose.
We have terrible statistics because if somebody comes in with 7-OH overdose, I'm not even sure a doctor would know to ask about 7-OH. Very few doctors I've spoken with know what's in these vape stores or know what 7-OH is. I've had to explain it to the dozen or so doctors I've talked to. So I think we're just starting to understand. It's very, very reminiscent of when we prescribed opioids to patients who didn't need them after minor surgical procedures, or too many opioids for those who did need an opioid. And we would notice some people were coming back for refills at a very high rate, but we hadn't put the two together because we hadn't recognized the addictive nature. So we need better statistics. There is a commitment from NIH to do some research to try to understand this, but this is not something where, you know, after 50,000 Americans have died from it, we want to start that process. Thank you, Lizzie.
Hi, Sarah Overmall, CNN. To David's question, what kind of regulation and guidance or scientific evaluation could we see in the future about natural kratom?
Look, I think there have been physicians who have had concerns about some claims around natural kratom. We have to prioritize what we work on. So we are going after the killer first, which is the synthetic concentrated kratom, and then we can look into that other question. But we think it's night and day in terms of the public health risk. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I'm Scott with CBS. You mentioned the doctors need to become more familiar with the danger here, and you've issued a letter, I think, today to doctors. But what, in fact, changes today? I'm sorry, are you issuing a new regulation? Are you going to do the scheduling? What actual change is HHS affecting today?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you for that. So a couple things. One, we're issuing a report, an FDA report on 7-OH, explaining it. We are putting that out there. We are, and we'd love for you to let Americans know about that report so they can learn. It has both a deep science component and a section for lay people so they can understand the issue. We think every school board should be talking about this. We are, number two, issuing a letter today to the DEA to recommend scheduling above a concentration threshold as a controlled substance. Number three, we are sending a Dear Doctor letter to every physician in the United States warning them about this. And we're going to continue to try to educate the public. So a couple very definitive actions today, and of course we announced a couple weeks ago that we have let distributors to the retail stores know that we have serious safety concerns and specified those concerns. Yeah.
Hi, Margaret Manta with Notice. You said that you're thinking about this in terms of concentration, where it's like trace amounts of 7-OH and Kratom versus, the much more concentrated product. Is this a framework that you think the FDA could use for other dietary supplements?
I think it's a good idea. Thank you for suggesting it. We do something called an 8-factor analysis. So our scientific team and the scientific team at the DEA independently try to evaluate, is there a threshold? And they look at animal studies and a whole bunch of other criteria to look at dependence and addictive thresholds. So we have a threshold that is calculated in 2 different mathematical ways to try to distinguish what we're talking about with concentrated kratom from the trace amounts that appear in the kratom leaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrin Asaf, Gray Media. I know you said this process is just beginning, but of course that takes time. So in the meantime, can you tell us how quickly can we see these products removed from shelves or at least made harder to obtain? And then what message do you want to give to Americans who are seeing this and saying, oh, I thought it was totally safe and maybe still today can actually go and get it?
So effective immediately, the letters are out to the distributors, and we've actually gotten some positive feedback from some of those distributors. So we're sounding the alarm with the distributors of the synthetic concentrated kratom. We also want to create a national conversation where parents talk to their children. Kids are sometimes using these substances and the parents don't know, and sometimes the kids are using it and they don't actually know what's in these substances. So this is a time, as with other new addictive substances that enter the United States, for us to have these conversations. And I hope school boards, places of worship, all talk about the illegal substances in these vape and smoke shops and gas stations. Thank you.
Hi, Liz White with the Wall Street Journal. Also very present in smoke shops and vape shops are high-potency cannabis products and synthetic cannabis products such as Delta-9, Delta-8, THCA, high THC products. And these have been linked in the medical literature already to psychosis. Is there a reason that this kind of well-established smoke shop problem is not something you're going after?
So I personally, in my writings as a physician, in my statements, and also the Department of Health and Human Services, have expressed serious concerns about people using these cannabis products. We don't want kids to use them. Cannabis use disorder is a real thing, and as you appropriately mentioned, there are now studies linking it to psychosis and even cardiovascular problems. So that is an entirely separate public health campaign, and it's an important issue. Thank you.
Okay, last question right here.
Thank you. Amanda Seitz with the Associated Press. I was wondering if you could say what class you're recommending that it be scheduled and how quickly you're expecting the DEA to act.
Yeah. Class 1, it is an opioid by definition. It will be ultimately up to the DEA to decide. Thank you.
Thank you so much.